could swing by.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yes. Camper shell's ready. So today I wanted to kind of go over, well, the good, the bad, and the ugly of owning a third-gen Prelude. And I imagine a lot of Preludes, no matter the generation. This is a 1988 Honda Prelude 2.0. It's the dual carb motor. It's a B20A3. It does not have four-wheel steer. It's not fuel injected. It's really not that impressive of a spec'd Prelude. And to be real with you, it definitely didn't even look like this when I bought it. This is after years and years of working on this car, breaking this car, fixing this car. Today I want to talk about ownership and the problems that I've had. I like to talk a lot about how great this car is, and this video doesn't change the fact. This car is great. There are issues, and I want to talk about the ones I've had with my third-gen Prelude. Potentially the best way to do this is to just start from the outside, and we'll work our way around and inwards on the car. Obviously, this car is blue in color with kind of a greenish hue. I don't know what the color code is, to be honest with you. I can show you the door sticker. I don't believe this is a Honda OEM color because I've looked up the door sticker code, and I just feel like this doesn't match what that code is supposed to be. This car also doesn't, in my eyes, look to be repainted at any point. And if it had been repainted, they would have had to have taken out the motor and everything to just paint it all almost like factory, because the engine bay, the trunk, everything is painted to match this color. But because I get the question all the time, I'll show you. Here's the door sticker. Color is B37M. So what that tells me is this paint is technically called Florence Blue Metallic. And I've looked up Florence Blue Metallic on the interwebs, and I just feel like it's not quite the same shade as the one I have. And I know this car is 30 years old, so there's something to be said about that. The paint fades over time, sunlight does that. I'm not convinced that it's the same color. And just overall, the paint is in okay condition for its age. It's okay. The rest of the car looks really good. You can't see how bad it is underneath. This is actually black vinyl wrap that I've put on the hood, or on the roof. The roof had terrible clear coat peel, and you can kind of see it through the actual vinyl wrap. It is brutal. That's definitely the worst of it, so I just decided to temporarily wrap it with vinyl a few years ago. It's actually stuck on pretty nicely and suits the car. Part of the ugly, as you can see right now, I have mismatched wheels, and that's because I blew out a tire the other day. Not ideal, but that's what happens when you run stancy wheels with the stretch tires and you're riding lower than OEM. It's just the risk you take, and you gotta pay to play. But on the note of wheels, when I got this car, they had, I think, some really funny looking kind of 17-inch wheels. I'll throw a photo up. And they just, I mean, yeah, I guess they didn't suit the car. They didn't suit the car the way I wanted it to. So I saved up my pennies and I got these. These are a custom built 3-piece wheel. They're by Heritage. And these ones specifically are called the Heritage Emolas. I believe they're about a 3-inch stepped lip. They're, again, 17-inch wheels. I did do staggered, so the fronts are actually not as wide as the rears are. The rears are about 1/2 inch wider. I think it's a 9.5 and a 9 up front for all you, what's your wheel specs? What's your wheel specs?
Give me your wheel specs.
There they are. There you go. Figure out the ET yourself. Now that we've got wheels out of the way, let's move on to suspension. This car obviously sits low now. It was stock ride height when I picked it up. Stock factory struts and springs and all that good stuff, or not good stuff. It actually rode, it was nice having the clearance, but it actually rode pretty rough. And once I put the coilovers on, it was arguably about the same ride quality, just lower. So I got the looks and about the same ride quality. I didn't really improve or go down in that remark. Yeah, one reason I don't give people my exact wheel specs, especially the offset, is because it requires some modification. When I put these wheels on, finally figured out the ride height, I had to basically roll my fenders. And you know, some people aren't up to it. As you can tell, this paint wasn't up to it and cracked around the fender a little bit, and that's pretty much on all 4 fenders. I'm gonna address that. In fact, I should have addressed that when we were talking about paint, but there are some rusty bits that need to be taken care of, and It's on the to-do list. I'm gonna tackle it panel by panel. And kind of just continuing the story with lowering this car, putting it on nice wheels, it's been a process. And I was burning through tires like crazy, which is kind of ironic because I just blew a tire due to camber wear, but it's been much better. This car, when I got it, stock everything suspension-wise, chassis components-wise. So I ended up putting some adjustable tow arms on the back, and that allowed me to fix the toe. The terrible inwards toe that was on the 2 rear tires and was wearing them out like crazy. I never ended up getting an alignment, which is why my fronts ended up wearing out faster. But you're gonna have to modify stuff, and you're gonna have to find components that are gonna work for your exact setup. This car is an S model, and it was missing its badges. This car is a 2.0 S. It was missing its badge here. This one I actually bought from another Prelude enthusiast. It used to have one really tacky one that was just stuck on that said limited edition. It looked really, really terrible, didn't belong on a Honda, so I replaced the emblem. This trunk spoiler is not even made by Honda. It's not even for a Honda. This is actually an OEM Peugeot M1 14A something model. It's an early 90s Peugeot that this spoiler came off of. My good friend Dave, his dad had it in his garage, asked if we could take a look and see if it would fit up nice. I liked it, we stuck it on. It's lived here ever since. Now that I'm walking around this car, I'm like seeing more and more and things I need to bring up, stuff I forgot about, stuff that was really terrible looking when I got this car and it still needs work, but looks a lot better, so let's continue. The window tint, it looked worse than this does. I ended up getting some pre-cut tint for this car and tinted all the windows myself. This back windshield, however, is just, the curvature makes it a real challenge to tint, especially if you're an amateur like I am. So I'm gonna have to have this probably professionally retinted at some point, but when I bought this car, oh my gosh, it had the most purple, wrinkled, peeling off, just flaking off tint. I mean, you rolled on the highway with the windows down and there would just be purple flakes of tint flying around the car. It was disgusting. Can't forget about the exhaust. I just put on a muffler, a 2.5-inch straight pipe, basically from the way back, from the cap back. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It's catless, okay, I forgot. It's catless. It's basically just a 2.5-inch stainless pipe that runs to this tailpipe that the insulation has now come out of, and there's nothing insulating it, so it sounds like a lawnmower. It needs replacing, really. Here's a good one that gets me. When I bought this Prelude, there was so much water in the trunk. If you pulled up the spare, it was just covered, drenched. There was a lake of water in there, and I think it's because the taillights leak, and to this day, years later, I have never managed to totally fix it. I tried replacing the foam seals that kind of go around the taillights that is supposed to seal it to the body. They're actually leaking just from their joints and the crevices and the cracks and everything in these taillights, so I think they really need to be taken apart and totally resealed. Because there was a bunch of rust in here, I ended up fixing all the rust holes, taking all the rust out, POR 15, sealed it up, and I ended up putting this kind of fake linoleum floor in the trunk, which works out nicely. Hey, there's my real nice wheel that has a flat tire. And that's been working okay. It definitely fixed a lot, but like I said, these taillights definitely still leak. Oh, that didn't work. B20A3, very factory, haven't done much. The one thing I have done is swap the transmission from an automatic to a manual. I busted the first manual transmission. This is the second manual transmission that I've installed in this car. Tune-up stuff, right? Plugs, wires, distributor, cap, rotor. I think I got a battery at some point. This has been my latest thing. I ended up ordering a diesel heater exhaust pipe to run from here, which is the air hot pipe, runs hot air back to your air intake to help the carbureted motor heat up faster in cold starts. That's really it. I haven't done much to this thing. I mean, it's very stock. The only thing that's not factory of the manual transmission is I put a Fidanza flywheel, or Fidanza, whatever that overpriced aluminum flywheel is. I've got one of those in there. Reliability wise, I mean, this motor kind of sucks. It's easy to work on, but hard to diagnose. There's just so many vacuum lines everywhere in here. These carbureted motors are just, they're kind of tough to work on. I'm not gonna go really in depth. If you have one, I feel for you. There's not a lot of documentation on how to work on them on the internet, so I'll save you the time of researching. If this is your motor, this is your Prelude setup, you are a real one and you know the struggle. Power steering, I did have to replace and clean up all my power steering hoses. They blew or were blown kind of probably from the get-go. I need to go back and replace them. You can see, or maybe not, it's a little wet right there. Power steering on these, I don't know why. All my friends with Preludes have power steering issues. I don't know why they leak, but they do. That's gonna be the second or third time I've had to work on the power steering lines. And engine-wise, I think that's it, man. Let's see, headlights. Just put these on. I used to rock some LEDs. They were decent when they worked, not decent obviously when they didn't work. Since then I've swapped to this. This is just a swappable LED bulb with a projector style housing. Works pretty good. Fog lights did not come with the car. They were empty holes. I don't think they ever came with them from the factory. Kind enough buddy sent me a set of OEM fog lights, so now we have those. This front lip is actually off eBay or Amazon, wherever you shop. It's a 1996 Honda Accord Type R front lip. Looks pretty good. I think it suits the Prelude best. Requires modification to install. Probably one of the most asked questions I get are what side skirts, what body kit is that? This is, again, just off of like a 1994, 1995 Honda Accord factory. Like the car just came with these little plastic side skirts. Went to the junkyard, found some I could take off. Still had to like cut them down to size and make them fit the Prelude with some modification and some will. They work. Same deal with the little rear bumper skirt here that wraps around the rear bumper. Gosh, it is, I'm sorry guys, this car is filthy. It's been sitting ever since I got the flat tire. It's raining and it just gets, ugh. Let's go ahead and jump inside the car. The seats, everything used to be blue, kind of like my carpet if you can tell. And actually the black paint is kind of worn off, you can definitely tell. My seats were like this really kind of baby blue, the whole interior was, and I've since painted that black just because I like black better. I think it looks better. You've got a quick release steering wheel that took some MacGyvering to figure out. Uses a CRX hub, and then you can pretty much run whatever quick release wheel you want. The speedometer has been intermittent and not working since I bought the car. I just kind of deal with it. When I bought the car as well, the turn signals didn't work, so I had to drive the car about 18 hours home without turn signals. Fuel gauge didn't work. It has since started working kind of randomly. About a year after driving the car, just one day just whoop, zipped right up, started working again. And for the shifter, I've got a custom wood grain shift knob that a good friend of mine made for me. Boot I made myself just out of some fabric I got from Joann's Fabrics. Pretty standard stuff. And I also put a head unit in. Me and this Prelude have, we've been through a little bit. Transmissions, tires, wheels, suspension, done a lot to it. DIY, I've done it all myself except for welding the exhaust on. Don't know how to weld, wish I could. Can't do it yet. That's the only thing I've taken this car, oh, I lied. I took this car to a shop to have the timing belt done because I had just bought the car, didn't know if it had ever been done, and did not have the mechanical aptitude to even attempt to tackle that type of job. So although it may look like all good and fun owning a third gen Prelude, it's a lot of work, it's maintenance like anything else, especially harder when you can't find parts, which requires you to be a little bit more gentle when working on the car and making sure you don't lose pieces that you cannot replace. I love this car, I do. It's a great car. I wouldn't trade it for nothing, and I wouldn't sell it either. If you're thinking about getting one, I highly recommend it. I just wanted to show you guys the real side of owning this car, no BS. It's an old car, it's an antique at this point. I mean, golly, this thing's like 34 years old. To be expected, things are gonna start breaking down. You know, you just gotta roll with the punches and I said it before, pay to play. Cause man, when it's rolling nice and you're cruising on a nice day like today, oh, there's just nothing better, especially with the homies, also in Preludes. Gosh, it is unreal. So there you go, not all rainbows and butterflies from a 4 to 5 year Prelude owner now. I've had this car for about half a decade. I've worked on it myself. I think I can share an honest opinion on it. It's a great car, fun to work on, struggle to work on at times, but always worth it. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. If you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, comments below. Anything I missed that maybe I forgot about, stuff I've modified that I forgot about, put it down in the comments. Let me know what your experience is with your Prelude, all generations, 2, 3, 4, 5, and first generation. I always forget. Gosh, you never see those. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Keep elevating. Adios.